Hey guys, Joe here, and today we will be doing a video of a new series where um European powers will be trying to remake empires. So, as you can probably tell by what is highlighted, we'll be starting with Spain, and actually their first move will not be a conquest of a former territory, but allying with a former territory, this former territory being Western Sahara. Now they'll take this alliance with Western Sahara and then put troops in Western Sahara and then frame Morocco for attacking their troops to get around any Morocco-US alliance to frame Morocco as the attacker. Now we all know that Morocco wasn't actually the attacker. I mean, come on, guys. Um, so we will be coloring Morocco in as blue. And before Montenegro, Montenegro, Morocco can do anything, Spanish troops well, first, Western Saharan troops will pour over the border, as well as Spanish troops taking the Strait of Gibraltar. Some more Spanish troops will come in from the Canary Islands and come up in the south. A landing will be made here to take Rabat and Casablanca. Western Saharan troops will pour up further. The Spanish troops will meet to make one large front line. Algeria will enter the war on another side, fighting the Moroccans and attempting to get land, pushing up against this mountain range right here until their borders look roughly like this. They meet up with the Spanish and they make an agreement to divide territories. Spanish troops will push into Morocco against the mountains that Algeria pushed against too, until these becomes the border, and they begin pushing down as Morocco capitulates over to the Spanish. So let's take a look at this peace treaty where some things will be happening. So first of all, we undo those buckets because we need to turn the tolerance down before we do them. And then we do that, and then we draw the borders. Sorry about that. So also sorry if there's some background noise, but anyway. Western Sahara will be annexing this territory out of southern Morocco. Spain will turn this into 3 different colonies. One there, which will be called the Casablanca colony. One here, which will be called the Rabat colony. One down here, which will be called the Morocco colony, just simply Morocco. And then this area will be fully annexed into the Republic of Spain, this area up here. And any other territories will be annexed by Algeria, so this land. But Algeria is actually not going to be red anymore because later some things might be happening that involve that color up in Europe. Anyway, Algeria will annex more land than you might think, taking all of this southern territory. Now, as I said, this area will become the territory of a Spaniard ally, not the actual Spanish, as the Spanish are not gold. But this territory will be annexed by Western Sahara. And then again, as I said, colonies, your favorite viewers. We will have these three colonies of the Spanish crown, and then the Spanish crown itself. Now, this colonial color is way too close to the not colonial color. 70? No. This is so annoying. 65. 60. 60. Doesn't that work? But then what color is this? 65. Okay, that works. All the colonies of the Spanish government will be this color, which is these. But that is the new Spanish beginning of the empire. Now, the US doesn't like this, and so there'll be little things happening. And Spain and the US will kick the Spanish out of NATO, but Spain doesn't really care about that. And Portugal, um, seeing what Spain did, and they are like, ooh, we wanna do that too. So the Spanish will join, wait, no, the Portuguese will join the Spanish in their um status as becoming new empires, and Portugal will actually make its first attack down here in these two colonies that aren't colonies. So I believe Sierra Leone was a British colony and Liberia was a American colony, if I'm not mistaken. But who cares about that? Portugal wants them, so they're Portuguese colonies now. It's obviously Portugal will be wanting this territory as they will be wanting to control routes around the tip of Africa to Asia again, like they did, even though they're just kind of useless now. Now, this is a little south of their original colony here, which was actually up here in Guinea-Bissau, but who cares? They're making their attack down here, taking the small coast of Liberia, and then this little area of coastal Sierra Leone until they own all of coastal Sierra Leone. They will push in, and no other African nations will make a move against Portugal, as it just wouldn't be wise yet. And Sierra Leone and Liberia will capitulate, and they will become Portuguese colonies. As it is what will happen. So there we go. Now, as a response to this, all French colonies, well, as a response to, and also, just do something, Portugal will also unite these two things in into one colony. But anyway, as a response to Portugal's actions, the Ivory Coast, also named Côte d'Ivoire, which is their native name, I'm not sure if I can pronounce that, but they will make a offer to all the French colonies. Yeah, I'm not even sure if they were French, but who cares? And former French and English colonies, proposing a union of African states against colonialism. And the first one to accept this is actually going to be Guinea agreeing to union with the Ivory Coast, because I can't pronounce their native name. And finally, well, not finally, Ghana and will also do it, and actually Portugal's old colony, Guinea-Bissau. Togo and Benin will also consider joining this. However, they instead decide to unite together and then in turn unite with Nigeria, as they think it provides more protection, as Nigeria would probably be stronger than this West African state. Actually, not probably, definitely. But anyway, that is Portugal's new colony, and Spain and Portugal are kind of in a rivalry here. So both of them will attack other states, with the Spanish attacking Mauritania and the Portuguese actually attacking Suriname. Suriname. So now, Suriname wasn't a colony of Portugal. It was actually a colony of the Dutch, which is okay. But they can't take on Brazil yet, and also Brazil's part of the Rio Pact, and they can't take on America, so they will invade Suriname. Now, none of these countries that Portugal has attacked have been as close allies to the U.S. as Morocco, including Suriname, and so Suriname will capitulate, and the U.S. will be completely fine with this. And again, as they did, they want to make it a colony, as unlike with the small part of Morocco with Spain, they just aren't able to annex these in full parts because of Morocco, because they aren't close enough. But anyway, Spain will have their ally, Western Sahara, invade into Mauritania, taking some of these border territories and beginning to take this, pushing against the Algerian border for one reason, to stop Algeria from taking any of their land like they did with Morocco. Spain will then get up the capability to launch their own full invasion, taking the more important coastal areas of Mauritania and pushing in. And as with Sierra Leone and Liberia, no African states will make a move in this war, either on Mauritania's side or against it, as Spain and Western Sahara divide up the territory. Now, you might be thinking that Western Sahara wouldn't have the capability to do this, as they had just recently gained their independence in this video, because Morocco still claims them as part of their country in real life, but Spain is probably giving them economic aid and military aid so that they can build up their country and become one of the stronger African states, even though they aren't in a very good position to become a strong African state. But in this peace treaty, let's see what happens. So, first off, Western Sahara will be annexing a little territory, not very much of the coast, even though that's what would help them build up the most. But they'll annex a little bit of the coast, but not a lot. Then move up here and take this. Until their borders will look like that. And the rest of it will be divided into two Spanish colonies, with this country annexing two good portions. First this, and this, which is actually three portions, not two. But who cares about that? And So it will be this northern Mauritania bit, this central Mauritania bit, and this southern Mauritania bit. And that is all of the Mauritania bits that the Western Sahara will be annexing. And as I said earlier, the rest of it will be annexed as colonies of the Spanish Empire. That. So now the Portuguese and the Spanish don't really like each other, and so they will actually start to go to war, with the first event happening when Spanish, who are the ones who started the war, cross over the border into northern Portugal. Portugal, however, was expecting this, and so they are ready. They will move into this area, taking the disputed town of Olivenza, as well as other small areas along the border, and moving up here. Algeria will actually end up joining as a close ally of the Portuguese. Not actually a close ally, but they will. They end up joining as an ally, and we're gonna have allies in Portugal be this color. However, Spain will be gaining another ally as well, with the West African and Nigeria, so that's actually two allies joining in on their side. And Brazil will also make the decision to join on the side of Spain, even though they speak Portuguese, as they want to delete the possibility of any Portuguese reconquest of their territory, which will actually set off a reaction that propels the rest of South America to go into the conflict on the side of um the Portuguese. So what we have here is Portuguese speaking South America supporting Spain, and Spanish speaking South America supporting Portugal, as they both respectively do not want their former mother country, well, I guess it's still their mother country, to take them back over. Portugal will also be getting Mali on their side, as they want some pieces of Mauritania. And so the war shall begin. Well, it already began, but it shall begin more. So actually, this should be a different color, not the color I have it as. Portugal's ally of Algeria will begin the first war to end Spanish Morocco, and will put their troops across into the Morocco colony of Spain, as well as into the Spanish part of northern Morocco that is a full part of Spain. They will also put their troops into the Casablanca colony, reaching the coast and taking the city of Casablanca, and reaching up and also taking the city of Rabat from the Rabat colony. And they will move south and capitulate the major part of Spain's army in Morocco and begin invasions of Western Sahara, who has begun to own more of the Western Sahara. Their forces will also begin to go up and to finally capitulate the Morocco colony of the Morocco colony of Spain, as well as the Rabat colony of Spain, and will begin pushing up here. However, they will fail to take the African side with the Strait of Gibraltar. Down here, Mali troops will make a small push. However, in fact, a majority of Spain's armies stationed in their colonies, it's not, well, not their colonies, the colony of Mauritania, because of the two colonies of Mauritania and the colony of the colony of West and East Mauritania, because this is the most recent army activity and not all that military activity that they've had, and not all their military has left the territory since then. Their forces will make a push towards the neck of Mali, and I don't actually think that's what it's called, but the thin point in between all the Azawad part of Mali and the southern part of Mali that has the capital. Malian, I don't know what people from Mali are called, but Mali's troops will pull out of the Mauritania colony, which will cause this front line to stabilize in the favor of Spain, as Mali needs to fight back against cutting their country in two, which will go mostly successful, pushing back against the border of Spain, taking out a, a good portion of Spain's army down here, however, failing to completely push the Spanish out of their country. Now we have an ally on ally war happening down here in the south, with Portugal's allies attacking Morocco's allies, and Portugal will actually be attempting to cut the country in two at this place here, the thin point between Guinea and the Ivory Coast. So they'll reach up towards each other with Portugal's colonies, where most of their military is stationed, doing most of the work, as they didn't put a lot of military in the Suriname invasion, but they will meet up, cutting the West African nation in two and causing Mali's troops to pour into the Guinea area. Over here in the north, South South American front. Actually, Brazilian troops will pour and extinguish the Suriname colony off the continent, as well as pushing a little into these Amazon territories of those country, Venezuela, and a little bit of Colombia. People these days. Whoa. And there, however, the Spanish, the Latin American allies of Portugal will take the province of Acre away from Brazil. Brazilian troops, however, will cross into Bolivia and a little bit of Paraguay in order to stabilize the front line. And this stabilization will cause a little bit of the inevitable Brazilian pushback in the Acre area, which leads to this. However, the Spanish will also, the Latin Americans will also begin pushing up here and will stabilize this front line, which will cause Brazil to push back, not to push back, to be pushed back mostly to their own territory and solidifying that. This also down here will be stabilized with the Spanish troops coming, the Latin American troops coming up and making this border of troops. Now, that will do it for today's episode. Next episode, we will see more European countries other than Spain and Portugal attempt to form empires, as well as the conclusion of this massive Portuguese-Spanish war. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.